Well, anyway, you get the idea. That's New York police responding. And sadly, there are 2 New York police that won't be responding to anything. The one guy, his wife, and his child, boy, well, don't have a husband. Boy doesn't have a father. Said on Twitter the saddest day of his life, and it's probably true. The other guy, he just got married. And, 2 cops doing their job on the street, sitting in their car by the subway. And this murderous scum shoots his own girlfriend in the stomach. Posts on social media, for every one of us, we should take out 2. And on Twitter, some of the vilest stuff I've ever read, applauding this guy for killing 2 cops who were doing their job, who were out there protecting the people in New York City. By the way, this is the guy from Pittsburgh. So I'm madder than hell about this because we've got race baiters, Al Sharp and Jesse Jackson, the #1 race baiter in the country, Barack Obama in the White House, and Eric Holder. Holder came out today saying we should have more work toward police and the communities working together. Well, the rhetoric from both those 2 idiots is what led to this, to make the idea that all cops are the enemy, and they aren't. They're a thin blue line or brown line or gray line, depending on what uniform you wear, whether it's New York City cops, San Francisco cops, Martinez cops, 2 blocks down the street here. Highway patrol, sheriff's deputies, state police, state militia. They do a thankless job, and almost coincide with this New York case where the guy shot 2 cops in the head and then goes down to the subway and blows his brains out in front of a car of subway riders as the doors close. So they got that nightmare to live with. They saw a guy blow his brains out. In Tarpon Springs, Florida, cop was trying to apprehend a criminal. I think he was a burglar suspect. Well, he's not with us anymore. The burglar suspect shot him and killed him. So another cop dies at the hands of thugs. We got too much of this stuff in this country where cops are perceived as the enemy in black neighborhoods, white neighborhoods, Latino neighborhoods, Asian neighborhoods. When you get in a fight with your wife, your girlfriend, your significant other, and she's threatening to kill you or he's threatening to kill you, who shows up at your door to try to break it up and calm things down? The cops. Some guy breaks in your car and steals a radio. Who, or your battery, or your tires while it's parked there, or smashes your windows in Oakland like a poor Mexican guy did with the so-called protesters who were really rioters and thugs and arsonists. And he's crying, I can't afford to fix this as the rain's coming in. Who shows up? The cops. And when your baby's sick in the middle of the night, you can't get a hold of anybody else. Or you're having a heart attack, the cops and the first responders, the firemen show up. The cops drag people out of burning buildings. And they get spit on for it, or shot at, beaten. They're out there keeping us all from having anarchy in the streets and total chaos. And it's a thankless job. So hashtag Cops Lives Matters. This stuff that as if only black lives matter is bull. Everybody's lives matters in this country. We're all Americans first. Not Afro-Americans, not Asian Americans, not Latino Americans, not the La Raza, the race, which is a racist organization. And this black guy from Baltimore They say he has ties to a radical black organization. And Mayor DiBlasio should be ashamed of himself and resign. He let the anarchists and the thugs and the arsonists terrorize his city and go into the streets. Mayor Giuliani called him out, former Mayor Giuliani called him out and said he would have funneled them into only certain areas. They wouldn't have gotten any further than they did. And we see this in Oakland, Emeryville, Ferguson. Guys start rioting and looting and destroying stores. One businessman in Oakland said he quits, he's done. He said it cost him $28,000 to put in new windows, and he can't get insurance anymore because every time he puts a new window, the rioters in that city, and it's for whatever cause. Excuse me. The only rioting they don't do is at the end of every Raiders game. They should be rioting over the commitment of mediocrity. But every time there's a protest in that city, innocent people get hurt. Innocent businessmen have their windows smashed, and their stores looted. Fires are set in the street. Cop cars are set on fire. Not by protesters, by looters and arsonists and criminals. Many of whom don't even live in the city. Their city residents are disgusted. And they've had it. They're tired of seeing all this anarchy and chaos in their streets. So next time you read some BS that it's acceptable to kill a cop just because he's out on the street doing his job for you, tell that person off and tell him to go to hell. And I don't care if you're white, black, Latino, Asian, transsexual, lesbian, homosexual, bisexual, trisexual, or if you're having sex on a tricycle. There's no excuse for killing a cop when he's out there doing his job. And one other thing. DiBlasio, leave the horses at Central Park alone. Danny Glover was out there, and he says he agrees with a lot of stuff DiBlasio says. He's wrong about that. DiBlasio's wrong about so many things, like so many liberal mayors of New York are. But unlike Bill DiBlasio, I didn't even look at the horses. Danny Glover went out to the stables, and he's wearing the button "Save the Horses" from the New York Daily News. And he was wearing a hat from the guys who drive the carriages in Central Park. And he remembers with fond memories, he said, of watching the horses when he was going to school in New York. But he said they're not being mistreated, they're not being abused, they're not being whipped, they're not being beaten. They're sitting in their stalls and they're happy. And if they don't want to go out and cart around the carriage that day, they're not forced to put the harness on and drag that carriage. They get to sit in their stall and enjoy their oats and their hay and their feed. And they're out of the rain, the cold, and the snow. And 6 weeks out of the year, they get better vacations than most people. They get to go out west to a pasture in Ohio or Illinois. I forget where it was. And they're on a vacation, and they roam free, and they get to eat all the grass they want, enjoy the sun, and they're petted and brushed and combed and bathed. I forgot to turn this fan off. And they're happy. And yeah, there have been times where cars have hit and killed them and hurt them. But you got a bunch of guys, that's their livelihood. And what happens to these horses now? The SPCA has said that if they ban the horses, that they'll find them all good homes. But how many times have we seen wild horses? They find them good homes. They're in a horse meat factory. Who's going to want an aged horse that's 16 years old? That all it's known all his life is running around with as a lead horse in the Central Park carriage. I've never seen the Central Park carriage, just enough in the movies. But when you think of New York, you think of the former World Trade Center and the new one just gone up. You think of the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building. And you think of the Central Park Ice Rink and the Central Park horses and the Rockefeller Center tree and the Rockettes at Radio City Music Hall and the Statue of Liberty and the Staten Island Ferry and the Bronx and Brooklyn and Queens and all the other boroughs of the city. You're there as a tourist, you go to look at touristy things, and you enjoy the romance of a carriage ride. And Bill DiBlasio wants to put something in a Model T looking thing that looks so goddamn expensive. A regular guy could afford a $9 horse ride or $40 horse ride, or I think there's some that are even $90. You don't want to ride in this. Everybody's looked at it and said, this sucks. So he needs to knock that stuff off. Free the horses. And free our cops from being gunned down in the street. Alright, this is the guy from Pittsburgh. Free Art Bell. And I'll catch you next time after football. Have a great day. Stay warm, stay safe, and stay dry out there. Bye-bye.